By the time Nightmare on Elm Street 4 came out, Freddy was becoming a phenomenon with his fans. There was a slew of merchandise, and at the height of all the success, there was even a short-lived TV series entitled Freddy's Nightmares. Much like the Friday the 13th series, the show had very little to do with the film series, except for the fact that Robert Englund reprised the role as the show's Master of Ceremonies, sort of like the Crypt Keeper. The episodes were all really bizarre, but usually starred then unknown actors like Lori Petty and Lar Park Lincoln. The most memorable episode was the pilot, which was actually about Freddy's trial and how the parents of Elm Street torched him. So in that respect, it at least acknowledged that there was a movie series. Now moving on to the fourth installment. Like Jason Lives to the Jason films, Dream Master was when the series started to become more campy.
How's this for a wet dream?
And had the audience rooting for the villain. There's actually a scene where Freddy sports sunglasses and is just chilling at the beach. It pays homage to other horror movies, and when the film proved a big blockbuster success, it springboarded the career of Renny Harlin. You know, the guy responsible for such memorable epics as Die Hard 2, Cutthroat Island, and Deep Blue Sea. Needless to say, he made what was probably the most successful horror film of the decade. But is it deserved?
Hello, baby.
I'd be lying if I said it didn't try. It takes a lot of the elements that made Dream Warriors great, and again aims for that dream fantasy quality. I love how they use people's fears in abstract ways. For example, there's a character named Debbie who's afraid of bugs. Rather than craft a scene where she gets mutilated by a bunch of bugs, she becomes the bug. It also has some memorable characters, although because the majority of this one is set at a high school, they're very much akin to something you'd see on Melrose Place.
Come up to the club, honey.
On the downside, sometimes the film can be a little too campy, like the kid in school who somehow becomes popular overnight, so he abandons his old friends in favor of his newfound popularity. The film has a way of being too big for its britches. Yes, there are some really cool death scenes, but some of them are just there for the sake of being cool, and don't really add much to the depth of the film. And yes, I know it's horror, but we can't use that excuse for everything. The scene where Rick has to fight an invisible Freddy is a prime example. It's silly, and we don't really find out a lot about this character before he dies. Also, toward the end, the film becomes too colorful and flat-out weird, again placing us in a very abstract, dreamlike state, but not really having any rhyme or reason. It's a good-looking film, but it's an example of how the look can sometimes overpower the story and the characters. And the thing that really pisses me off is that the survivors of Dream Warriors die within the first 15 minutes.
I'll see you in hell. Tell him Freddy sent you.
If you're just going to kill off these characters to begin with, why not kill them in the prior movie? It just seems ridiculous. Some might say that by killing off the good guys, we can start to worry about the other characters. That works in typical drama, but in horror, where everyone dies anyway, it would be more shocking if the good guys actually, I don't know, survived? A lot of people have a major problem with how Freddy gets resurrected in this one, with flaming dog piss. Yeah, generally they never had to explain how he came back. He was just there as if he never died in the first place.
You shouldn't have buried me. I'm not dead.
In this one, Kincaid dreams about Freddy and drags his dog,
Jason.
in with him. It's silly, sure, but like Jason getting struck by lightning, somehow this makes sense to me. Is there any difference between fire coming out of a dog's dick and fire coming from an oil spill or an explosion? The dog pee is weird, but it was also probably the cheapest way to go. The protagonist this time is Alice, played by Lisa Wilcox.
Welcome to Wonderland, Alice.
She's not the strongest player in the Nightmare franchise, but like Heather Langenkamp in the last films, she comes from a broken family. Her dad's a verbally abusive drunk, and so her and her older brother Rick have to fend for themselves.
You call this vegetation a meal after a 10-hour workday? What the hell am I, a rabbit? Christ, Alice, try to think a little more.
When Kristen is killed by Freddy, and yes, that's a different actress, I guess Patricia Arquette was on vacation, she leaves Alice her power, which is unexplained.
How sweet. Fresh meat.
Throughout the film, as Alice's friends die, she gains some of their attributes. She gains Kristen's smoking habit, Rick's karate abilities, Sheila's technical capabilities, and Debbie's hair color, I guess. Aside from the giant bug scene, which is certainly one of the more glamorous scenes in the whole franchise, the two other standout scenes are where Alice goes to the movie theater and sees all her dead friends in the audience, as well as the infamous pizza scene, which was partially developed by effects artist John Carl Buechler, director of Friday the 13th Part 7.
Rick, you little meatball. I love soul food.
No! Stop!
I also really like the scene where Alice and Dan are forced to relive the same encounter over and over, until they realize Freddy has them trapped in some weird time loop. At first you'll think your DVD is skipping.
You know, I get the weirdest feeling we've done this before.
I can definitely understand this one's success. It's probably got the biggest mainstream feel to it, and it even uses pop culture. MTV was breaking out at the time. But again, that's my biggest problem with it. This was the one that everyone saw. There was a feeling with horror movies that there was a form of ownership to them. Critics generally hated them, and parents dismissed them as well, so usually if you liked these types of movies, you were part of a select group. But when this one came out, no one had a leg to stand on. It was that big. People started to idolize Freddy, and I'm pretty sure Robert Englund himself openly embraced his fame.
You flunked.
But that doesn't make it a bad movie. Hell, even the popular kids once in a while can still seem pretty cool. This one really delivers a lot of top-notch scares, and on that level it tries to do what the third film was so successful at. The other downer is that there's just not a lot of depth to Alice's character, and the whole story behind the Dream Warrior thing doesn't work.
Did you ever hear of the Dream Master?
Sounds like a game show host to me.
Basically, Freddy dies because Alice recites an old nursery rhyme to him. That's flat out stupid. Still, this is one of the more fun slasher movies of the time, so if you haven't seen it yet, what are you waiting for? Go rent it, go buy it!
Kruger!
Well, it ain't Dr. Seuss.
Hey, baby. You're sucking on the wrong nozzle.
Hey, yo, Needle Dick. I bet you're the only male in this school suffering from penis envy.
I owe you one.